Hey again, welcome back to this fun YouTube channel where we hang out every day now, sometimes multiple times a day. Gabe DeArmond here in Columbia, Missouri, and Minnesota getting ready to start in what I have learned in the last 25 minutes is called Williams Arena. That is where Drew King is in Minneapolis. Drew, what's going on, man?
Well, the locals call it the bone game. I don't know if you knew that, but that's what it's more colloquially known as.
I did know that also because you told me that 25 minutes ago. So that is basically the extent of my knowledge of Minnesota basketball, other than Bobby Jackson played there a long time ago. He was a very good player. I don't really know anybody. I don't know that I can name a recent Minnesota basketball player.
I don't know that I could either. I can name a couple of the current players, but that's because I wrote about them already.
Yeah.
Another kind of tidbit about Williams Arena, the court is on a platform, which is a little bit different. It's kind of elevated above the rest of the floor. So
Like Vanderbilt, like?
Yeah, a lot like Vanderbilt.
Okay, cool. So, hey, I want to invite you guys, if you're joining us live here, tip off about 8 o'clock. We're just going to hang out for, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever. Talk a little bit about this game, about Mizzou, all that. If you got comments, put them in the queue. If you got questions for Drew, he's up there. Excuse me, I believe the only Mizzou media member that's there, unless we count Mike Kelly and Chris Gervino. And I don't, because they're different. So pass along our thoughts to Mike and Chris, but tell them that we do not count them as members of the traveling media party. But while you're here, like, comment, share, subscribe, do all those things. So, Drew, I don't want to call a November 16th game a must-win game, but this kind of seems like a game that if Missouri is what Missouri thinks it is, they should probably go win.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a Minnesota team that got voted last place in the Big Ten preseason media poll. The expectations aren't that high for the Golden Gophers this year, and they are higher for Mizzou. So you're absolutely right. This is a game where Mizzou kind of needs to win, right? And it's a game that they scheduled to have kind of that early road win. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, and look, flip side, I mean, we covered a team last year that probably if a Power 5 team was playing Missouri early in the year, they would have said, well, we should win this game, and Missouri was picked low and all that. And then, hey, maybe Minnesota's really good. Maybe they turn into something that we don't think they – or that most people don't think they are. But the truth of the matter is this is the kind of game that you hope to win. Like, I know it's early in the season to start talking about like quad 1, quad 2, stuff like that. But look, this is a road game against a Power 5 team. The truth is that most Power 5 teams probably won't play more than 1 or 2 of those. And Missouri's got 3 on its schedule.
Yeah. It's kind of reminiscent of the Wichita State game last year, right? Where you're getting your first real test on the road. The difference is last year they had 7 games to build up to that. This year they've had 3, so it's going to be a little bit more challenging. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a little bit of an indicator of like what is the expectation for Mizzou this year. Are they what they say they are, or is it going to be a bigger step back than we initially thought?
Yeah. Mitchell wants to know what kind of atmosphere is expected. You guys can hear a little bit of it. We are getting a little of the pregame music and stuff coming through. Look, I don't know. I can't imagine many people are there yet, an hour and 26 minutes before tip-off. Any idea, like, I don't know if people go to Minnesota basketball.
I'm not for sure either. I can check what their attendance was the last couple of games. I wouldn't expect it to be that high because it was Bethune Cookman and UTSA. So it's probably going to be the biggest crowd of the year so far. I don't know what that means in terms of like the actual number, but
right,
it's going to be a crowd.
Yeah, there will be some people there. Yeah, Minnesota is 2-0, like you said. 20-point win over Bethune-Cookman, 26-point win over UTSA, which I think is not as good at basketball as it is at football. The name for Minnesota is Dawson Garcia. The first two games. Tell the people watching, Missouri fans, that maybe failed to read your game preview, which guys you should go do. But if you didn't read Drew's game preview, maybe he'll give you a little idea about it.
Yeah, so Dylan Garcia, really talented big man, has the ability to step back behind the 3-point line and shoot from distance, but he's a lot better in the paint, on the block, posting up guys. He's had a really good free throw rate for his career. He's able to drawing fouls. And so that's something that they're going to try to exploit against the Mizzou team that doesn't have a whole lot of size, although they're getting Connor Vanover back tonight. So that could play a pretty big factor for them. And then Minnesota, we talked about Dylan Garcia. They also have a guy named Farrell Payne who's 6'9" and 260, so he's not any smaller. And so that's going to be kind of the game plan for Minnesota tonight, I think, is to work it inside, try to take advantage of their size.
Yeah, you mentioned Vanover. David Fine mentions Vanover. I wouldn't expect him to be in the starting lineup. Do you?
I wouldn't completely rule it out. I mean, as far like if you want somebody to stop Dylan Garcia, I think Vanover might be your best option. Dennis Gates went small last game with Noah Carter and Don Ponze as his two starting big. He might go back to that and try to take advantage of kind of the athleticism of that group. But if they run into trouble, I think that Vanover or maybe Aiden Shaw or Jordan Butler is going to be the first guy off the bench.
Yeah. Very much through 3 games, Dennis Gates is like experimenting and trying to figure out what his rotation is. Is it too early to think maybe first road game that gets pared down a little bit? Maybe instead of 14 guys playing or whatever it's been, we see 2 or 3 fewer guys out there?
Yeah, so it's a question that kind of came up during the Memphis game, right, where he was throwing out guys left and right. We saw Caleb Brown and Mabor Majak. And then during the second half, when Mizzou started struggling, you saw that lineup, that rotation start to shrink, right? He really only went to Tamar Bates and Aiden Shaw off the bench. And then when those 2 guys weren't getting it done, that's when he went to Ant Robinson and Trent Pierce. So I could see a scenario where if it's going well, Dennis Gates keeps it rolling, keeps throwing guys out there. But I think it's going to be the same thing where if it's a little tighter than expected, he's going to play his most trusted guys. So it could be either or.
What I find interesting is Gates will play a lot of guys, but he also will not hesitate to not play a guy. I mean, Second half against Memphis, Mabor and Caleb Brown don't play. Unless I'm wrong, Jesus Carolero Martin did not get off the bench in the last game.
That's correct. Yeah, no. I think it's Dennis gets brought up. It's not an injury thing either. It was that Jordan Butler was playing really well, and they wanted to see what he could do in extended minutes. I mean, Jordan Butler proved that he might be a contributor on this team, which I don't know that most people were expecting heading into the year.
Yeah. Well, and look, this is how Dennis always presents it. Well, this guy didn't play because that guy was playing really well. But I mean, Jesus legitimately played 0. Like that's not just because of Jordan Butler. That's a reflection on the first 2 games as well.
And it's kind of presented it the same way in the season opener, right? Jesus played the first half, didn't play the second half. Dennis said it was because Aaron Shaw looks pretty good. We got to get him some minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. J Dude is asking, do the freshmen keep playing decent minutes tonight? So here's what's interesting about the freshman class to me. It's been like almost the exact opposite of what I expected coming in. Like we heard so much about Trent Pierce that we both think he's at some point a starter on this team. He has barely gotten on the floor and frankly hasn't looked very comfortable when he has. Jordan Butler, who we've heard, hey, he's a project, it's going to take a minute, has actually played some pretty good minutes. And Anthony Robinson looks like a guy that's going to play all season to me.
A lot, yeah. I mean, Ant Robinson, I thought was going to play the least out of everybody because you had Nick Honor and Sean East playing in front of him. Well, since Gates is going to play East and Honor on the floor together, it's kind of opened up a spot in the rotation to have another point guard out there. And Ant Robinson's really taken advantage of his opportunities so far. And then, like you said, Jordan Butler made a really strong impression last game. We'll see if he gets kind of the same role with Vanover back in the mix, but I think he's earned at least like a chance to keep it up, you know. And then, like you said, with Pierce, to me, he's been kind of nervous. He hasn't made a field goal yet. And that was kind of the calling card was like, oh, he's got 20 and 10 in the Jamaica scrimmage. Like, this guy is going to be a really good scorer for us. I haven't made a shot yet. I think that's kind of in the back of his mind. And some of the stuff he's thrown out is kind of forced. So he's going to settle in eventually, and we'll see like what he can really do. But I don't know if that's going to be tonight in a big game like this.
Well, I'm interested to see which ones of these newcomers kind of settle in and really start to like. Look, Noah Carter, Sean East, I think probably will be Missouri's top two scorers. At least for the first half of the season, but I think probably all year. Nick Honor is going to. I know it's been a little rough, but he's going to start and he's going to play all year. So those three guys, like, that's been most of Missouri's offense for about the last 50 minutes, to be honest. But is it John Tanjay? Is it Caleb Grill? Is it Tamar Bates? Is it Vanover? Like, which ones of these new faces kind of step up and are the main support group? Because I think Gates knows what he's got out of Honor, East, and Carter, but I think he's waiting to see what he's got out of the rest of them.
Yeah, so I do think that Grill's going to be one of those guys. The shot hasn't fallen yet. It's going to at some point. And he's been a guy who's proven he's better than what he's shooting from three-point percentage, right? He's a pretty high-volume shooter. I think he's going to have a bounce-back game eventually, whether it's tonight or down the line. And then another note that Gates brought up during the press conference yesterday, you know, we asked him about Nick Honor, and he's like, yeah, I need him taking more shots. I need him more selfish, but I think some other guys could be more selfish too. One of them being Tamar Bates. He thinks that Tamar is a guy that can take a step forward in his role and carve out some more minutes being a scorer. So that's somebody that they're going to lean on a little bit more too down the line here.
And also, if we're honest, Nick Honor took 14 shots in the season opener. I don't need him being any more selfish than that. That's plenty selfish for me.
Well, I think we were talking about the two games afterward. Nick wasn't as aggressive, a little bit more passive, and he wants the opposite. He wants the Nick from the first game.
I got you. So I'm assuming that when you got to the arena, like Missouri wasn't there yet, you haven't really had a chance to kind of be down on the floor and talk to anybody or kind of get a feel for anything yet. Is that right?
Correct. I think Mizzou just came out here, actually. I'm not wearing my glasses, so I can't recognize anybody, but I'm pretty sure Mizzou just got out here for shoot around.
Right. Also, with your glasses, you are approximately 974 yards from the court, so you may not even know if there are players on the court.
Right.
To be quite
very true. I don't know if y'all can tell. Like, this is the roof. I don't know that I could be any further away.
Yeah, there might be somebody in section 203, a couple rows behind Drew, but that's about it. Media
two
seating.
Other rows.
There's only two?
Only two more rows behind me. I'm in like the third from the back. So
all right. Well,
I don't know that anybody's sitting back there.
Yeah, media seating not a priority at Williams Arena, but hey, if it's not crowded, just move down and just go hang out in the bottom section. Who knows?
Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. We'll see.
Yeah. So, all right. So Daniel says you guys say it's too early to worry about losing to Memphis, and then you say that this might be a must win. I want to be clear. This is not a must win. If Missouri loses this game, like, the season's not over. They're not out of the tournament. Everything doesn't suck. But I think it would ease a lot of mind. Like, again, if they're going to go win 25 games, I think this is a game that they win a lot more often than they lose it. That doesn't mean they can't lose it. Doesn't mean the season's over if they do lose it. But you'd like to see them go get a win tonight.
Yeah, no, I think a loss tonight, it would just mean like the team hasn't progressed to the point that makes you kind of think that they're ready for the SEC. That doesn't mean that they're not going to get there at some point, right? Because there's a lot of other big games in the strong conference schedule that will let them build up some confidence. But in terms of like the games against those high major opponents, this is going to be one of the easier ones. So that's why it's an important game for them.
Yeah. All right. So, look, guys, it's relatively loud there. Drew's got a lot of stuff to do. We want to jump on and do a quick thing. So, Just a couple things before you jump off here. Give me kind of a key matchup or a key, like something Missouri's got to do tonight to come out with a win, and not like actually shoot better than 12% from the field, because that we know.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the biggest thing is they gotta force more turnovers. They've forced at least like 10 or 11 in every game, but it's not to the level they were last year. That's kind of to be expected with the more Hodge gone. You're not going to have another single season steals record broken this year. But I think they can do a better job of that. And the point guard that Minnesota brought in for the season through the transfer portal, I think they combined to average something like 7 turnovers per game in the last year. So it's a matchup that Nick Honor and Sean East and Caleb Grill and the rest of the guards on the team should be able to take advantage of.
All right. I know you picked Missouri in your prediction this morning. I agree. I think Missouri wins. I think it's a relatively close game. Like, I don't think they're going to go on the road and win this game by 22 points. But give me, like, we'll do kind of the pick to click, right? Like, who do you think, whether it's a guy that we've gotten used to or a guy that breaks out, who do you look at tonight and say, I think maybe this is a night this guy does something?
Is it too soon to say Connor Vanover? I really think this is a game where he can make a really big impact going up against Minnesota's bigs. And like, we've seen what Mizzou's defense looks like without a 7'5" guy in the middle. I'm wondering what it's going to look like with like Connor Vanover there altering shots at the rim. So that's kind of my pick for tonight.
All right, give me Tamar Bates back in the Big Ten. Comes off the bench, double-digit scoring night. I think Bates and Tanjay are maybe kind of guys that establish themselves as like, hey, solidly in the rotation here and solid contributors for this team. So, Drew, I know it's been a long day, man. You left Columbia about 7:00 this morning. You're coming back tomorrow. They play again this weekend. So glad we could get you there, and look forward to the coverage tonight, man.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
All right. That's Drew King live from Williams Arena in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Just wanted to check in with Drew and get you guys some boots on the ground, little feel for things. And hey, it's loud and audio is not always great, but we definitely wanted to get you there. And Drew, if you can still hear me, you're free to go do whatever. You are no longer on the screen, so feel free to do whatever you need to do. I'll hang out here with you guys for a couple minutes. If you've got more questions, if you've got anything you want to talk about this game, we'll get to 25 minutes. Tip off again 8:00 tonight in Minneapolis. I think it's on the Big Ten Network. I'm going to have to double check. I'm sure somebody will tell me in the comments if that is wrong. I'll figure it out sometime in the next hour and 13 minutes. I'll be watching here, but Drew will be in Minnesota. He will have coverage for you guys on the board throughout. Then obviously he's going to be there, talk to Dennis Gates and a couple of players afterwards. It's, again, not a must-win game, but what are those kind of pivot points early in the season, right? Drew compared it to Wichita State last year, and I think that's good, a good comp. Like, you go on the road against a team they're decent. You've heard of them. It's not like an embarrassment to lose to that team, but it's not a great team. It's a team that you think we can go on the road and beat. Well, if you remember that Wichita State game, like, that was ugly, man. Missouri didn't shoot well for a long time in that game. I think it went to overtime, and they ended up getting the win. First game you play away from home, a lot of times rims are a little bit different. Atmosphere is a little bit different. Background's a little bit different. You don't always shoot the ball real well. So I think maybe we'll find out a little bit about Missouri's defense. It's been better than it was last year. They gave up 70 to Memphis. That's not that bad. I mean, they gave up a lot more than that. A lot of games last year. Held SIU Edwardsville to whatever 50 or whatever it was. But I mean, SIUE was 1 for 21 at one point in the second half. So I don't super put a lot of stock in that. But it'll be interesting to see, things to watch. First of all, how much does Connor Vanover play? Second of all, how much does that change what Missouri does? I'm going to be honest. I think he'll play a decent amount, but I don't think Connor Vanover is a guy you'd look to, hey, he's going to change the makeup of this team. He's going to change the look of this season. I don't see that. I mean, it's a big guy in the middle. Defensively, it may have a little bit more impact because it's a tough guy to shoot over at 7'5". So So that may actually help Missouri's defense, help the guards on the perimeter a little bit. Maybe they can take a few more risks because if they get beat, there's a guy back there to help him out. Offensively, he's a shooter. He's not going to dominate in the interior and post a bunch of guys up. Now he's big, so he ought to be able to score in there some. But I think just what his impact is, what he looks like is a thing to watch. The rotation, again, we know Dennis Gates by now. He's going to play a million guys, and just because a guy plays in one game doesn't mean he's going to play in the next game. It's going to look different night to night. But by the time we get to game 9, 10, 11, beginning of SEC season, we're going to have a pretty good idea for what the rotation is. We're not there yet, so I'm interested in seeing what it is tonight. And, like somebody had asked earlier, I'm interested to see what we see out of the freshmen. Right? Is Ant Robinson solidly in this rotation? Is Jordan Butler in this rotation more than we thought? Is Trent Pierce maybe not in it as much as we thought? So it'll be, freshmen may get some DNPs coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how that works and all that. But game at 8 o'clock, we will have coverage. Drew's probably got live stuff going on the board pretty soon. If he hasn't already, he's going to get the game thread going shortly, and I'm sure we'll talk with you guys throughout the game. I'll have some thoughts. Drew will have post-game video and all that. And Yingling Mike, welcome to the chat, repping the sponsors. And hey, even though this is not technically a Yingling sponsored show, I am going to say, if you want to be like Mike, black and tan, it's the best product they make. You should try it. So I have left you with good life advice and a preview of the basketball game. Hour and 10 minutes till tip-off. We'll be with you all night. Thanks for hanging out. Catch you next time.